this video, we'll discuss key financial terms necessary to understand student loans, as well as calculate interest and monthly payments. There are three types of student loans available. There are federal loans made either by the government or by banks and lenders and guaranteed by the government, as well as private loans. Generally, federal loans are a better choice than private loans. The interest rate is guaranteed over the life of the loan, and they're considered to be very stable types of loans. However, there is a limit to the amount of funding that you can have through a federal loan. So if your education is very expensive, then a private loan may be a good backup option once you've exhausted the federal loan options available. One difference between a student loan and other types of loans like a car loan or financing on appliances is that payments are usually deferred until after graduation. Students have the option to make payments during school to keep the interest low, but since most students aren't working enough to be able to keep up with that kind of financial commitment, then you do have the option for payments to be deferred. Generally, that's a 6-month deferment, although that term does vary. The other difference is that student loans may or may not accumulate interest while in school. Some do, some don't, and students also have the option to pay that interest during school or leave that until after graduation. This is a formula for calculating daily interest, and this is a little bit different than some of the other interest formulas we've used, but you also will see some similarities. So first of all, the annual interest. This should look similar to simple interest. Right, we find annual interest by multiplying the principal balance times the interest rate. So that's like principal times rate, and then that's as if the time were 1 for 1 year. Okay, so that should look familiar. Now the daily interest amount, also similar to simple interest, but we use a specific number for the time period, and we actually use 365.25 for the number of days in a year. So rather than averaging that number or dealing with leap years, we take the number of days in each year to be the same each year. Then the monthly interest amount is just based on the daily interest amount, and this kind of makes sense. You have a daily interest amount times the number of days in a month. All right, so if it's like $1 per day and there are 30 days in a month, then you multiply by 30. So you can see that depending on how many days are in the month, the amount that's paid on a student loan could vary month to month. All right, let's try an example calculating interest. If Sonia borrows $6,500 to cover one-time college expenses in a federal student loan program at 6.8% interest, find the monthly interest for 30 and 31-day months, and then determine the amount of interest that accrues. All right, so first of all, the monthly interest is found by first finding the daily interest and then multiplying times the number of days in the month. All right, so we'll use the simplified daily interest formula, which was to multiply the principal times the rate and then divide by 365.25. And that's the daily amount. Okay, so the principal balance is the amount that she borrows, $6,500, and then times the rate. We're told that this is a 6.8% interest rate, so we'll multiply by 0.068 and divide by 365.25. Now, as with our other financial problems, we'll round to the nearest cent. So this is an interest amount. Okay, so this would be $1.21 each day. Okay, so for a 30-day month, you would multiply that by 30, and that would be $36.30. And then for the 31-day month, you could just add $1.21 to that, or you could multiply $1.21 times 31, and either way you end up with $37.51. So that interest is accumulating while she's in school each month. Now let's find the amount of interest that accrues. Your textbook says while she's in school, but they also want you to consider the 6 months after graduation before she begins making her payments. So maybe a better way to say this is just how much interest will accrue until she begins making payments. All right, so she starts school in August, graduates in May, which is 3 years and 9 months later, and then there's a 6-month grace period where she doesn't make any student loan payments before the first payment begins. Now, your textbook is counting a full year as end of August to end of August. All right, so if we wanted to find the total time period here before payments begin, okay, we're going, graduates in May, 3 years and 9 months later, all right, and then if you add 6 months to that, that's going to put us at the end of November, right? So basically we've gone, this is 4 years and 3 months, okay, so 3 years and 9 months plus 6 months is 4 years and 3 months. And those 4 years, we're counting that as end of August to end of August. So then the 3 months beyond that would be September, October, and November. Now, why do we need to know this? Because if we're trying to calculate the amount of interest, we have 3 different formulas. We have an annual interest, a daily interest, and a monthly interest. So it makes sense that we would probably use the annual interest for as many full years as we have, but then for that partial year, September, October, November, we need to calculate the monthly interest amounts. So we need to know if those are 30 or 31 day months. Okay, so first of all, we can use the annual formula to find how much interest accumulates in those 4 years. All right, so we know that the annual amount is the balance. Let me put this in a different color. I think this will be more clear. Okay, so we have the principal times the rate, which is 0.068. And then I'm just going to multiply this by 4, since we would do the same calculation for those 4 years. Okay. Now for the 3 months, we've already done this calculation. We know that September and November both have 30 days. Right, so we have 2 months where the interest is this 3630 amount, okay, the amount for a 30-day month. And then October has 31 days, so that would be 1 month in which $37.51 of interest accumulates. All right, so we're going to add all of these things together to find the total amount of interest. And you should get a total of $1,878.11. All right, so all of that accumulates by the time she makes her first payment, all right, after the end of November. 2 other key terms necessary to understand student loans and how interest works would be subsidized and unsubsidized. A subsidized loan is one in which the interest is covered by the government while the borrower is still in school. Right, so they're actually paying off that interest so that it's not accumulating by the time you graduate. And unsubsidized interest is added to the principal while the borrower is in school. Undergraduate loans would more commonly be subsidized, okay, although they can be unsubsidized depending on the loan, and oftentimes graduate loans may be unsubsidized. Those do accumulate interest. All right. Another thing to know is that when monthly payments begin on a student loan, they're based on the principal balance at that point in time. So in our last example with Sonia, when she goes to make her first payment, right, there's a principal balance which includes all of that interest that's accumulated. However, if she had maybe like a subsidized loan where the government paid the interest, or if she had chosen to pay the interest off while she was in school, then her principal balance would be a lot lower. So let's look at the formula for finding the monthly payment on a student loan, and then we'll use this to make a calculation. All right, so this is a formula for a 10-year student loan. That's a standard repayment term. Okay, so once her payments begin, then, if we're talking about Sonia, then she would have 10 years to pay off her entire debt for school. So in this formula, you should see some variables that look familiar. We have R for the regular monthly payment. We've talked about that in terms of annuities. All right, for example, capital P stands for principal. We have a lowercase r for the interest rate. And then we don't have a t for time. That's been filled in for us. Right? This exponent is actually negative 12t. But since it's a 10-year loan, in this formula, the 10 has replaced the t, and that's why we have negative 120 as the exponent. Another good thing to know about this formula is how to enter this in your calculator. And you can enter this from top to bottom, left to right, just as is, with the addition of one set of parentheses that needs to go around the entire denominator. Okay? And then the other one that's optional, depending on your calculator, some may require parentheses around the negative 120 to show that that negative is part of the exponent. All right, so you'll need to play around with your own calculator and see how yours works and whether or not you need that extra parentheses. All right, so let's try it out. Find the monthly payment on the loan in example 1, that's Sonia's loan, if the term is 10 years. All right, so let's look back at this formula and see what we need to know. All right, to calculate the monthly payment, we need the principal and we need the rate. Those are the only two variables. Okay. Now, her principal, because her interest accumulated while she was in school, right, we found that the interest was $1,878.11. Okay, now that's accumulated, so that all gets wrapped into her principal when she goes to start making those monthly payments. All right, so the P in this formula is not only the $6,500 she borrowed, but we add to that the interest amount. Okay, so the principal is going to be $8,378.11. Okay, the interest rate, we know that as well. This is from example 1. The rate was 6.8%. Okay, so we're going to go with 0.068 to use in this formula. All right, the next step is to substitute those variables in. So we have the regular monthly payment is the principal. Oops. All right, principal times rate over 12, so 0.068 divided by 12. All right, and then all of that's divided by 1 minus, and then in parentheses the quantity 1 plus the rate over 12, so 0.068 over 12, and then the exponent on that parentheses is a negative 120. Okay, so let's try this. Put parentheses around the denominator in your calculator. See if you can enter this all at once. If not, if you need to, you can do this in steps. So maybe work out the numerator first and then the denominator. All right, and see what you get. And you should have something that's either exactly this number if you entered this in all at once, right, or a rounded value if you worked this in steps. And you should end up with $96.42. Okay. Two other types of loans, student loans, they can either be capitalized or uncapitalized. Now, capitalized means that the interest on the student loan is not paid during college, right? So generally capitalized sounds like a positive thing, has to do with maximizing something, but in this case it's actually a negative thing. Capitalizing a loan maximizes the amount of interest that you will pay. All right, so if you're not paying the interest off during college, then that's just continually adding to the principal, and then over time that's going to result in larger payments when you do start to make those payments, including interest. Right? So if interest is not capitalized, this is the good kind of loan here, all right, if possible, then payments must be made during college, but only covering the amount of interest. So for the last example we did, we figured out the amount of interest for 30-day months and 31-day months. Right, so the monthly payment while in school would just be one of these two numbers, okay, for 30 or 31-day months. But the principal, the $6,500, that's just going to stay put until after Sonia graduates college. That doesn't get paid back during school. Alright, so you can probably see the benefits to both types of loans. Loans that are capitalized are nice if a student is not able to make any payments at all during school. Right, then they don't have to pay anything till after graduation. But when interest is not capitalized, meaning they are paying the interest as they go, then ultimately they'll pay less money for that loan. So let's do a comparison. We'll use the interest on the loan in examples 1 and 2, and we'll compare how much Sonia would pay overall and compare the monthly payments if she either did not capitalize the loan or did capitalize the loan. Alright, so to begin with, let's remind ourselves, find the interest payment while she's still in school, and we've already done this. Okay, we know that it's $1.21 per day, and then depending on if it's a 30 or 31-day month, we would multiply to find the amount she would pay each month. Find the payment on the loan when full payments begin. Right, so if we're looking at, in this case, the loan, if she's not capitalizing the interest, right, if she's paying it back as she goes during school, then that means by the time she starts making payments, right, then her principal balance is still going to be the $6,500 that she borrowed. Right, so we're going to go back and reuse the monthly payment formula, but this time we're going to use $6,500 as the principal instead of the amount that includes the interest. All right, so make sure you go back and review these types of review these types of loans and see if the principal should or should not be including the interest for capitalizing or not capitalizing. All right, you want to make sure you get that straight. Okay, so there we go. Alright, so the only thing I'm changing in this formula is just the principal. Okay. And then when you go ahead and make that calculation, you should end up with a monthly payment of $74.80. Alright, so that's the payment on her loan each month. Now here's the question. How much less would she pay in total if she did not capitalize the interest? So let's do a comparison between the capitalizing situation and the not capitalizing. Alright, so capitalizing, that's when the interest accumulates and she doesn't pay it off. So we found originally in example 2, we found her monthly payment in this situation with all that interest built in, and that was $96.42. Alright, and then in the not capitalizing situation, in this example, we found that if she does pay the interest off, then her monthly payment is only $74.80. Okay, now how many monthly payments will she be making? Well, 12 per year, and this is for a standard 10-year loan that was built into this formula for monthly payments. Alright, so in each of these cases we need to multiply by 10, okay, and also by 12, right, or by 120. So she's making 120 payments over the life of the loan. Now, is there anything else that we need to consider that she would be paying? Right, is she just making these payments, Well, in the situation where she's capitalizing the interest, that's it. She's just making those payments, and that's it. But in the situation where she didn't capitalize, she paid the interest off as she went, so we've got to add in that interest that she paid up front. All right, so that amount was $1,878.11. All right, so that's a separate number in this situation, but that's built into the higher monthly payment in the situation where the loan is capitalized. Okay, so in the capitalization situation, when you multiply, ultimately she pays $11,570.40. Okay. In the not capitalizing situation, okay, when you multiply and then add in the interest, she pays a total of $10,854.11. Okay, so how much less does she pay in total? We just want to subtract these two to find the difference. And ultimately she pays $716.29 less, okay, by not capitalizing the interest. Okay, so to summarize, capitalization, higher monthly payment, and paying more overall, but you don't have to make payments while you're in school. Not capitalizing gives you lower monthly payments, and you'll pay less overall, but you do have to make payments while in school. So those are some of the advantages and disadvantages. Alright, so that's everything about student loans. There are some additional examples in the textbook if you need them, and that should give you what you need to be able to calculate interest and just understand a little bit about how student loans work.